you might have a question, what is a handout and why we need this in the learning and teaching process? So the handout is a paper-based research which used to support learning and teaching process, which can free the students from excessive note-taking. Ideally, it should help the learning process and may increase attention and motivation, also help the students to follow the development of an idea or argument. The first task, therefore, is to clarify the aim in using any handout. The desired outcome will affect the information, its quantity and presentation crucially when you distribute it. According to Andy Prestowal, that the purpose of the handout in learning activities are: first, as a guide students in obtaining the information, and the second is can be used by students to enrich their knowledge, and the third purpose as a support for teaching and learning. Why we must or we should use the handout? Because a handout provides background information or detailed information. And the second, a handout put forward a point of view. And the third, a handout has an outline of a course of action. And the fourth, a handout poses conceptual questions. And the fifth, a handout provides a case of study for problem solving or discussion. And the last is, a handout has an outline decision with a series points per topic area or per subbab. There are also a lot of advantages of using handout. The first advantages is the handout contains the key points which will be the same for all students, so they can know and they can discuss about the material. And the second is the students has to listen actively to complete the notes. And the third, it spares students tedious note making and thereby should generate greater concentration on the lecture. So, for the example of a handout, I brought this. Why I say if it was the example of a handout? Because in this paper, it contains some key points which every students in my class have the same material. And to complete the assignment in this paper or this handout, we must listen actively to complete the assignment inside this handout. And this handout is divided into subbab or series like this. You can see this. So this is a handout.
Will present about according to Stephen and Peter Bellets into Prosto that handout function include: first, helping student not have to take a notes, helping student to do not have to take a notes because the material described is already in the handout. Second, as a component explanation of teacher. As a teacher, assistant explanation because the teacher make a detailed summary in the handout. Third, of a reference material for student as a reference material for student because the teacher include a summary of teaching material taught in the handout. Fourth, motivate student to study harder. Motivate student to study harder Because the material has been summarized, students like to see or read summaries. 5. Reminder of the subject matter taught. 6. Giving feedback. Provide feedback. This will make it easier for teacher and student to give feedback to each other. 7. Assessing learning outcomes. The teacher will more easily give an assessment to student. This is for me.
Okay, the next material is opening, closing of the lesson. So, in this opening lesson, the teacher should put student attention and provide their motivation. If the teacher comes early to the class, maybe students do not focus on the material because they are afraid of the teacher. So, the teacher should always be positive and should reflect it of them. In addition, the teacher entrance to the subject should be attractive so that a student will be more curious about the material. And the closing of the lesson, the teacher should ask the student whether they are understand of the material or not, or whether they are have any question or not. And an effective closing lesson doesn't take much time. In fact, the teacher should take 5 until 10 minutes for the closing. If the time is over and the teacher doesn't finish the lesson, it will not be good thing to postpone telling the subject to the next week, because students may not understand or they may forget the important points. Taking into consideration, opening and closing of the lesson are important points for both the teacher and the students. So, the teacher should be effectively and productively. And the next, there are some example activity of the opening lesson and the closing lesson. For the opening lesson, there are 2 examples, and the first one is share one word. Of this activity, ask students to share one word about how they are feeling that day. Usually students will answer, "I'm fine, thank you," and you, something like that. It's good, but more better if the teacher should tell the student to find other vocabulary that representation their feeling except fine. Like, "Good morning class, I will ask you how are you feeling today, but don't mention fine, because the word of fine have been familiar to you, right? So you find to another words that representation you're feeling today. Then one or more student exactly mention the new word, and it can become new vocabulary for another students. And the second one is previewing the lesson. The teacher should get the students thinking about what they are going to study. It lets students know what to expect in the lesson. Tell the student the objective of the lesson and how they are achieve this. The teacher may also want to explain the significance of the objective and how it will be benefit of the students. In this way, the students will focus their attention on the material or the lesson. And the next is some example activities of closing of the lesson. first one is read the learning or the lesson. If the teacher get 8, 9, and 10 ratings, it means that the lesson went well. If you have lower number of rating like 4, 5, or 6, it might be time to probe for further information from the whole class the next day and then reteach or review the material. Also, the teacher should ask the student to write down what they need on the material, like more explanation maybe or more time during explain the material. And the second activity is review it. For this activity, the teacher can give some question based the material that the teacher teach them, and direct the students to raise their hand if they can answer the question. And for the student can answer the question, the teacher should give some extra point. It will encourage students to more focus and attention during the lesson session.